It's that wonderful first few minutes on YouTube Live where you don't know who's watching, if anybody's watching, and you just got to kind of like, come up with all this stuff that you can't really talk about your, topic because you don't know if anybody's there yet. And it's so awkward. Okay, now we got some people appearing. Hello to everyone. Just waiting for a lot more people to join us. Then I want to talk about a couple of different topics that I wanted to go into this evening. While we're waiting for enough people to get here, then I can probably answer a couple of astrological questions or so. So if you want to type a question or two into the chat window over there, I will try to answer it. So so basically, here's the rules. Don't ask personal questions about your chart. I ignore them, but I just like to remind people so they don't waste their time, kind of typing it in and expecting that I'm going to answer it. Okay, but there are a couple of special topics I specifically want to talk about today. It's this evening where I am, and maybe afternoon or early morning hours where you are dependent. But if you've got a question or two astrologically while we're waiting for a couple more people to get here, then, please feel free to fire away at it. Oh, by the way, happy Saturn stationing direct to everyone. Okay. So let's just see some of the questions that we've got here. How would I describe the sun in Shatabishak? Well, on one level, there are so many different ways to describe the sun in Shatabishak, dependent upon all the different influences that are there. But Shatabishak energy tends to quite often feel like it's on a very special mission. And if there is the tendency to fail at what that mission might be, there's a sense of honor might be impacted. Okay? So that's one just really simple concept. All right. Okay. How is Rahu in the 5th in Libra with Venus in the 8th? It depends more on the strength of the planets. Obviously, the planet being in the 8th on some levels isn't helpful, but at the same time, you really have to take into consideration the strength or weakness of the planets. Okay. So we're going to put the Q&A on pause for a moment, and I wanted to talk to everybody a little bit about Vargas and Rahu and Ketu. And here is why specifically. I just released last year's video courses. I did a extensive video course on the Vargas last year. That course is over 60 classes long. It's available now on video, and that particular course is about 90 hours of course video. And I also did a course last year on Rahu and Ketu. I'm going to touch a little bit about what is on those courses and maybe share a technique or two from those courses for you. But just so you understand, the Rahu and Ketu course had 49 classes, and so that was, roughly about 75 hours worth of video as well. Both of those courses are available as a video course now, and you can purchase them in portions, right? So if you don't want to purchase the entire course, you can purchase 1/4 of the course at a time. So because these are very long courses, just to explain to you, first of all, you're getting a discount if you want to order it today before, let's say, 10:30 p.m. UK time. That discount will be available to you, 10% discount. If when you order the course, you enter the discount code in all uppercase letters, video, VIDIO. Here we go. I'm going to type it in the chat window like I usually do. Okay. And so basically, the Varga course is $625 for the full 61 classes, I believe. But if you want to purchase it in portions, you can get each portion of roughly like 15 classes for $169 for each portion. And that's before your 10% discount. So roughly for a quarter of the course, you'd be paying like $153. I think for the full course, it would be somewhere between $550 and $575. In addition to that, for the Rahu and Ketu course, for the full course, that one is $499. And if you want to purchase that one in sections, then that one is $139 per 1 quarter. And again, that's before your discount. So roughly $126 for 1 quarter of the Rahu Ketu course, and roughly $450 for the full course. Now, these courses are really intensive. I'm going to show some concepts from these courses. If you're a previous student of mine, you get a 15% discount, and you should have already received an email from me in regards to that. If you're interested in this course, there is a link above in the video. If you just click on that, it will take you to my courses page. So there's a lot that people don't understand about the Vargas. As a matter of fact, I've encountered that a lot of people, when they first get into Vedic astrology, and it's understandable, this is not a criticism, so to speak, they get very focused on the Rashi chart and the Navamsha chart, and quite often don't really expand their repertoire beyond that. And most often that's just because they don't really know how to work with those particular Varga charts. But it's interesting, there's a whole mathematics that's connected to the Varga charts. So in other words, there are Varga charts that have a connection because they're connected to similar areas of life. So for instance, what would I be talking about? So, well, let's say if somebody's involved in a lawsuit, there are a few different Varga charts you're going to want to look at. Number one, obviously, it's always good to look at the Rashi chart, but the Rashi chart is not always the conclusive Varga chart. Rashi chart shows what's happening on the individual's life path. In addition to that, you'd want to look at the Drekana, or the third divisional chart, because that on many levels shows the strength of will of the individual. It also is connected on a certain level to the power of being able to negotiate through a lawsuit. In addition to that, though, you'd also want to look at the 27th divisional chart, which is called the Bamsha. And with this particular divisional chart, that's really good for helping you to understand a person's capacity to succeed in battles. And always you would want to look at the Varga chart that's connected to what the lawsuit is over. So if it's property, you'd want to look at the Chatratamsha chart. So a lot of people, they don't want to go deeply into it, right? They don't want to go deeply into looking at all those Varga charts, but doing good astrology involves going very deeply into all those Varga charts. And here's another thing. Each of the Varga charts has deities that are connected to it. Those deities add a lot of subtleties to the interpretation if you know how to work with them. Now, on the Varga course, I cover the mathematics behind the Vargas. I cover, what each Varga chart is about, including the Rashi chart. I touch on the critical houses within each individual Varga chart. And as well, there's a description of what each of these Varga deities is all about, as well as lots of concrete examples of how to work with these particular Vargas. Now, I'm going to go over this some of these techniques here in just a moment. On the Rahu and Ketu course, the Rahu and Ketu course contains a lot of information, obviously, on how to work with Rahu and Ketu, including Rahu and Ketu through the signs, Rahu and Ketu through the houses, Rahu and Ketu through the nakshatras, plus an in-depth explanation of how to do my karmic analysis technique. There's a lot of really important information on both of these courses. So let's just take people into an example. We have to bear with me because I often find the the screen share capacity within YouTube Live to be somewhat lacking. So if it doesn't come up immediately, please bear with me. Is anybody else having a hard time seeing me? Okay. Can somebody tell me? Nobody else is having a hard time seeing me. Okay. Okay, so let's see what we've got going on. Do I have a book? Not yet. Okay. So let me kind of go, everybody's seeing fine. All right, that's what I wanted to see. Okay, so let's go into this screen sharing capacity. Let's see if we can make this work. All right, so let's do this. Let's see what we've got here. All right, let's share that. Okay, so let's bring up the Dashamsha chart. That's everybody's favorite chart to work with. Okay, so in this Dashamsha chart, you'll see, right, in terms of some of the factors that are involved, let's use, for instance, Mars. Mars is the lord of the 8th and the 10th cusp, and Mars is in what's called a Maruta Dashamsha. Now, Maruta Dashamshas quite often make it so that the individual feels very changeable in association with their career or in association with their path to success, which ultimately is what the Dashamsha chart is all about. We most commonly check it for career and things along those lines. The moon, for instance, if the moon was a prominent career planet, and it is because it's the Atmakaraka, the moon is Indra. So that person's path in regards to their career, they're going to find themselves in a position where they're rising above all the challenges that are there, and they have the capacity to be able to see things clearly in sharp perception, which is what helps them to rise above those circumstances. So each of these Varga deities has a lot of meaning connected to it. And it's very important to understand that meaning because it gives you a lot more depth to your consultation. As well, if you know how to work with the nakshatras well, the Varga deities work exceptionally well with the nakshatras. Okay, there was something else I wanted to share with everybody. I just have to make sure I find the, the right PowerPoint. So for instance, you know, there's a lot of information here. Let's kind of pause here for a moment. Right? So Indra, like the Indra Dashamshas, give the power to rise above circumstances and overcome obstacles to one's success. Oops, I'm not sharing that on my screen. Bear with me for a moment. I think what I will do is stop screen sharing for a second and then go back into screen sharing and share the entire screen. Oh, maybe that's not such a good idea to do. Okay. It had that mirror effect, like when you're looking into a mirror. Okay, let's go into the PowerPoint here. Okay, so Indra Dashamshas give the power to rise above circumstances and overcome obstacles to one's success, usually achieved through controlling the senses and making them the servant rather than the master. With Yama Dashamshas, success is found through discipline. One of my favorites is the Varuna Dashamshas, success gained through the power of consciousness to hold on to a vision until it is attained. So you can see there's a lot of in-depth information on this course. Something that's really vital on this course, which I just want to share with everybody, just briefly, if I can find the correct slide. I believe it's slide number 10, 9 and 10. Each of the Vargas has critical bhavas connected to it. And these critical bhavas are found in a specific mathematic way that I don't want to go into depth with here because it's just too long-winded. But for instance, if you are, let's say, looking at fourth house related matters, well, the Chaturtamsha chart can be very important because it has a fourth house related agenda. In addition to that, you can find the Shadamsha to be very important if you're looking at things from a happiness point of view, because it also has a fourth house agenda. So you might find you want to cross-reference both of those particular Varga charts. In addition to that, the Kavadamsha chart is important because that shows the fortunate and unfortunate events that happen in an individual's life. So you see, if you're looking into a specific factor in a Varga chart, they're so deep that you can go with this rather than just looking simply at the Rashi chart. And that's one of the things that this course focuses on, plus teaching you a lot about the Avastas, like I said, how to work with each individual Varga. Each Varga chart also has a critical planet that's connected to it, like the Chaturtamsha chart, that would be Mercury. For instance, the Drekana chart is Mars. And the strength of those planets in those particular Varga charts also becomes very important. So just briefly, some of the factors covered on the Varga course are what the Vargas are, mathematical indications of the Vargas, grouping of the Vargas, introduction to the Lajatadi Avastas, and that's very long-winded. That's almost a course within a course. How to interpret the Shadasha Vargas, which are the 16 Vargas indicated in Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra, the critical houses in each Varga, critical planets, as I said, the Varga deities, and how to relate the Varga charts to each other in a reading, because you can go so into depth with the Varga charts, and especially the Varga deities. So if you're interested in that course, or this Rahu and Ketu course, where basically I cover how to work with Rahu and Ketu appropriately, such as looking at where the dispositors of Rahu and Ketu are placed from Rahu and placed from the ascendant, those tend to determine the areas of life that basically the karmic drama is going to play itself out in addition to whatever Rahu and Ketu happen to be conjuncting in each individual Varga chart. Yes, you can look at Rahu and Ketu in the Varga charts as well. So both of these courses are presently available online. And if you're interested in either of these courses, all you have to do is just go on to my website, to which there is a link above to the courses page. You get a 10% discount once again on these video courses. You can register for the course either, well, it's not registering, you're basically purchasing the course. You can purchase the course either in quarters if you want to take it 1/4 at a time, or you can pay for the course in full. If you pay for the Varga course in full before your 10% discount, it's $169 for each quarter, I should say. And if you pay for it in full, it's $625 for the entire course before your discount. And again, the Rahu Ketu course, if you pay for it in quadresters or 1/4 portions, it's $139 before your discount and $499 if you want to do it in full. So again, 10% discount if you enter the code that I'm entering in the window now for you. And that's available until basically 10:30 p.m. tonight, UK time. You can figure out what time that is in your time zone online. Okay, so let's see some of the other questions that people might have. Okay, so thank you for listening. I hope you're interested in those courses. They're very intensive. I keep recommending them to people that are on my other courses. Okay. Let's see what I can read here. Does interpretation for the nodes differ in Vargas as compared to Rashi chart? Well, it would, because you're interpreting that specific area of the individual's life, whatever that Varga chart relates to. You're looking at karma in that specific area of life. So in other words, if you're wanting to look at a person's financial karma, well, the Hora chart and the Chaturtamsha chart, looking at the nodes there, can show a lot of really deep information. So you see, it's really good to kind of work with both of these courses because you can understand the karmic impact in each area of a person's life. Okay, so it's really, really good information. It took a long time to do that course. It was like a year long, right? So it's something I'm really happy about, the Varga course, as well as the Rahu Ketu course. Okay. Let's see some other questions that people may have. Okay, so I'm going to scroll up because I know I may have missed a question or two. What do the nodes indicate in particular pertaining to the D10 and the D12 chart? Okay, so let's talk about what the D10 is about. Most people think about the D10 as sheerly just career, but it's much more than your career. It's about the great fruits in life, your capacity to be successful in any area of life, right? So in other words, if there are fifth house factors being really strong in the Dashamsha chart, that can mean certain things, and you'd have to kind of qualify which of these it means, which is why you need to take the Varga course. It could mean certain things like the person might have success in investment, or it can mean the person might have success with children or through children, right? So that's what the Dashamsha chart is about. We tend to look at it for career because people are wanting to know when they're going to enter a successful period in their career. The Dwadashamsha chart relates to one's ancestors. So let's talk about how, like you're asking, how the nodes impact each of those areas. Well, you can understand how an individual feels or how they approach or what they need to work through in order to become more successful by looking at the nodes in the Dashamsha chart, right? And you can look at the Varga deities for the nodes too. That's a really in-depth way to look at it. And you can pull out what a person's karma is around success by looking at those specific factors. With the Dwadashamsha chart, it relates to one's ancestors. So, and when you're looking at Ketu in the Dwadashamsha chart, on many levels, what you're looking at is the karma that your ancestors had, okay? What they were most prone to. And when you're looking at Rahu in the Dwadashamsha chart, what you're looking at is what you might be doing that's different than what they did in order to resolve that generational karma. And that's a pretty important thing to know in regards to the Varga charts. Do debilitated planets behave different in Vargas than the Rashi chart? Well, they're still, if they're debilitated in a Varga chart specifically, then they're going to be debilitated in that specific area of life. If they're strong in the Rashi chart, but debilitated in that particular Varga chart, then a different, sorry, I should say, if they're strong in the Rashi chart, but debilitated in a particular Varga chart, then that area of life that they're debilitated in, which would relate to the Varga that they're debilitated in, is a weak area of the individual's life. But overall, if they're in the dasha of that debilitated planet in the Varga chart, and that planet's strong in the Rashi chart, it's not going to impact their life path in as huge of a way because the Rashi chart is about the life path. Okay? I hope that made sense to you in regards to the question. If it didn't, definitely, if you're able to, get the Varga course. And even if it did, get the Varga course. Okay? All right, let's see some other questions. So everybody can please feel free to put your questions here in the window. Otherwise, I'm having to scroll up pretty high to see questions. The Varga deities I speak about, how is it different as to D60? It's very similar as to D60, but the problem with the D60, or I should say what most people tend to do with the D60, is they just look at whether they think that Varga deity in the Shastyamsha chart is a malefic or benefic, and they go, oh, well, it's going to have a good result or a bad result. Those specific Shastyamsha deities are meant to be used in an interpretative capacity as well. So for instance, if you had Ketu in what's called a Kulagna Shastyamsha, the person's previous lifetime may have revolved around something that happened in their life that brought difficulty to their family, right? So all these Varga deities are meant to be used in an interpretive capacity. And it's just about understanding the energy of that deity or understanding that specific word. And so, yes, there are Varga deities in every single divisional chart. The Rashi chart, too, the Varga deities in the Rashi chart are the planets that rule the Rashis, okay? So let's see the rest of your question. All right, good. Okay. How to see what is strongly indicated in the D10. An example, what area of life one is successful in. Well, a good thing to learn, and this is something that I do teach on the Varga course is how to work with the avastas, the deep toddy avastas, which is for the most part the dignity of the planets, but there are a few other things included in deep toddy avastas, such as if a planet's joined the sun or if it's joined a cruel planet. Those are also deep toddy avastas, and all of those are really important. But as well, understanding the baladi avastas and the jagradati avastas are ways to really understand the strength of a planet. And so basically you need to see the strength of the planet in the dashamsha that rules the house. Another important factor in the dashamsha chart is Saturn, because Saturn gives the capacity to stick with something and to be disciplined with something until you're able to be successful. Okay, so a strong Saturn can help somebody, but if you also have another planet in that dashamsha chart that has a weak agenda or a weak 10th house agenda or any type of agenda at all, dependent upon which area of life, then that means that that may be a weaker area of life for the individual. Okay? Okay. All right, let's see what else we've got here. The reason I don't want to give you insight on Saturn retrograde in 12th house in Pisces with the North Node is because I don't know the strength of all of those planets. So I'm reluctant to go into that. A simple way to understand it, this is just a simple concept, and this is very much a generalization, okay, is that, sorry, I just have to remove somebody. Who's an abuser here. There we go. All right, done. Okay, the person's removed. Okay, so let's go back to some real stuff that we want to talk about. Okay, so one of the things that it can relate to is basically when one tries to be decisive or surrender to what they think that they might want to do, that they have fears that come to the surface, that something is going to challenge their sense of authority, or as well that they might go through some materially insecure times in association to make that decision. But that really on one level is just a vast generalization, because we really need to understand the strength of those planets. And most likely it would relate to some sort of financial fear on many levels, but again, I'd have to analyze your full chart. And I can do that for you if you want to schedule an astrological consultation with me. That's available through the astrological services page of my website, which is authenticastrology.com. You'll find the astrological services link. Okay. Do the houses in the Varga chart signify the same as in the Rashi? They signify the same thing in the Varga charts in a different area of life. Okay, so for instance, the 7th house in your Dashamsha chart, or the 7th house in your Hora chart, which relates to liquid assets, or the 7th house in your Chatratamsha chart, those can all relate to business relationships, right? Do you see? And so basically the house has its same meaning, it's just in a different area of life. And so the meaning gets altered slightly as per that particular area of life. But again, this is all on the course and you get a 10% discount. So if you want to, you can just follow the link above and that will take you to the course page. Okay. All right. So let's see what we've got going on. Well, there can, on many levels, somebody's asking a relevant question to your course, but what's your opinion on mutual lordship, 6th lord in the 11th and 11th lord in the 6th? Well, there can be delays to one's aspirations, but one will make long-term plans in order to try to figure out how to apply their energy and effort towards working it all out. But that is a generalization based upon a simple concept of the chart. Okay? So let's see some other questions. Okay, I'm sorry if the person who was like typing things into the window was being annoying. They've been dealt with. Okay. So let's see some other questions from people, anybody who might have a question. So once again, just while we're waiting for people to kind of ask another question, basically these video courses are from last year, right? But they're now available on my website. So these are not live webinar courses. These are video courses that are recorded to video, but they're very in-depth. And you also, if you purchase one of these courses, you also get membership to my astrological forum, so that if you have questions about any of the course material, you can just put your question into the astrological forum. Okay. First Lord in the 8th house can sometimes, not in every single case, can bring longevity to the individual, but it depends upon the strength or the weakness of that first lord. Right? If it's a strong first lord and they've got a strong 8th lord, then that can bring longevity to the individual. But there are so many other things that you really have to consider in these things. That's why astrology is never as simple as just the Rashi chart or just the Navamsha chart. I know it's quick and easy to just look at the Rashi and Navamsha chart, but it doesn't go into the depth that you need if you really want to do accurate astrology. Okay. Do I email PDFs of my notes to my students before the courses start? Oh, that's a good point. Basically, first of all, these courses are not live courses, they're video courses. But something I forgot to mention is these courses do also have extensive PowerPoints, much like what I was showing you a moment ago. Those were the PowerPoints from one of the courses. I gave you a sneak peek at the PowerPoint, and those are all the notes from the courses, which are available in the cloud folder link that I would send you to download. And you can use that as your course notes. And basically, that operates as study material. So they're rather extensive. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to kind of look. I'm not going to share it on the screen again. I think the Rahu and Ketu course has 170 slides in terms of the course material. And basically, the Varga course has, just a moment here, 152 slides to it. Okay, so there's a lot of course notes for these. So basically, that's included in the course fee. In terms of my live courses, basically, that's done before each class. The PowerPoint is updated. Okay, all right. So let's see some of the questions here. Okay, so somebody's asking a question about the nodes. As a matter of fact, if you hold on just a moment, I'll share some information on that in terms of what I do. I think I have it saved here on the screen. But basically, I use TrueNode. Okay, I thought I had something saved, right? Okay. All right, so let's share this on the screen with everybody. Oops, wrong one. Click the wrong button. All right, let's do that, and let's do this, and let's do this. Okay, so basically the mean nodes works off of the assumption that at some point in the past was the first day of creation where all of the planets lined up at 0 degrees Aries. Given that, how long does it take a planet to go around the zodiac, right? And you apply that to Rahu and Ketu. So how many years has it been since the beginning of creation, right? Which is kind of marked in terms of the mean node calculation. This means this planet has made this many cycles plus a remainder, which will determine its position when a couple of extra calculations are applied. So ancient astronomers knew that this calculation needed to be regularly updated, but the last update to this occurred around 1100 AD, right? So it hasn't been updated in a while, so it's much less accurate. So mean calculation assumes that the nodes travel at a certain rate. But when the moon conjuncts the nodes, the latitude should be 0. but it doesn't line up that way. And that kind of lends to a little bit of inaccuracy with the mean node. When you get to the true node, what the true node does is finds the moon's nodes when the moon conjuncts the nodes at 0 degrees. But there's a problem and an inconsistency with true node too, which is the position of the nodes at the remainder of the time is an unknown factor. And this is due to trying to figure out where the momentary plane of the moon intersects the ecliptic. And it's difficult to do that because the moon wobbles a lot as it moves across the zodiac, and the momentary plane is constantly shifting. I know it's kind of, if you do the course, I go more into depth on it. I just don't have time to go more into depth on it tonight. Therefore, it is based upon a theory and not an actuality. Plus, the moon's rotation around the Earth has a gravitational pull on the Earth of about 1 second of arc. But this means that the nodes can be several seconds of arc off. So with higher divisionals, there can occasionally be inaccuracies. So I use something called interpolated true node, which tries to make the true node a little more accurate. Okay, so I would go more into depth with that, but it's just really long-winded. And again, it's on the course if you're interested in that. All right, so let's see if there are some other questions that are here. Do I examine my students if they're suitable to study astrology? No, I don't, because I also have a fundamentals course, and I always state to people if they, a specific course should basically, you should have a basic knowledge of Vedic astrology. And I tend to have really good luck with that. Okay, so let's see. Okay, any other questions that anybody might have related to anything? It doesn't just have to relate to the Vargas and to the nodes. Pardon me for having a fisherman's friend because they keep my throat going. All right, so please feel free to ask some other questions here. Why does Mercury drain Mars? Because basically Mars views Mercury as an enemy, and so it creates something called starvation for Mars if it is aspecting Mars, or if basically Mars happens to be in Mercury's sign, or if they're conjuncting each other. That's something called the Lajatati Avastas that a lot of people don't know. It's a chapter of Brihat Parashara Horus Shastra that's on all these avastas, like the Deep Tadi Avastas, Baladi Avastas, Jagradati Avastas, Lajatati Avastas, and it's an area of Brihat Parashara Horus Shastra that quite often gets ignored by people, but it can really help you to do some very accurate astrology if you know how to work with it. And again, that's covered on most especially the Varga course. Okay. What do I think the big thing one needs to have as an astrologer? Compassion. I think that's the #1 thing that you need to have as an astrologer, because otherwise you're just going to see the person who's across from you as just a bunch of astrological data. And sometimes you might blurt out something in an inconsiderate manner that isn't, taking into consideration that you're dealing with a human being and not a bunch of data on your screen. So compassion and empathy are 2 of the most important things, right? Okay. All right, so let's see some of the other things that we have here. Please feel free to ask some other questions. So Rahu, Mercury, and an exalted Mars, and you feel it has a Rahu, Mercury conjunction in the ascendant. So it would depend upon how Mars is impacting Mercury, if there's an aspect going on to them. Okay, well, your Mars being in the 12th, that might be something that impacts that. But really, these are things that we would really need to look at your chart in order to fully understand, because again, it's not just your Rashi chart that we need to look at in these circumstances. Rashi chart is very important. I don't mean to have what I am saying sound like it's saying the Rashi chart isn't important. It's just that quite often you can find something happens in the Varga charts when it's not really being strongly indicated in the Rashi chart. That does happen from time to time. Okay. But in terms of health, the Rashi chart's very important. Let's see if there are some other questions further up. Is everybody slowing down with their questions now? How does the placement in Navamsha in a Dushtana house impact the result of a planet? A strong planet in a Dushtana house in any Varga chart is not going to be as powerfully impacted as a weak planet that's already compromised in a Dushtana house. So the important thing to understand is the purpose of the Navamsha chart, dependent upon the technique that you're using. If you're doing a lot of Jaimini techniques, the Navamsha chart becomes very important for almost everything. If you're working with the Varga charts on another level, and you can even include this, it's kind of hard to kind of qualify this. You can even include this with Jaimini astrology. The Navamsha chart on many levels is about finding purpose and meaning in those things that you're doing. And so you have to apply that to it as well. We'd like to have a strong planet in both of those, but really it boils down to the strength or the weakness of the planet that's in the Dushtana. And of course, you know, the cruel planets, which is the same as the malefic planets, it's just cruel is a better word for it. They like being in the Dushtana houses, right? Okay. Okay, so let's see what we've got going on. Sethra, just so you know, because you said you hope to schedule a reading soon, if you're able to, I have an opening in my schedule on Monday. It's up to you, though. Okay. Let's see some other questions that are here. Okay, let's see. Has anybody else lost the picture? Okay, because somebody keeps saying that they keep seeing these things about losing the picture. Is everybody still seeing me okay? So do you not have the picture? Is that what people are saying? Oh, everybody sees me. Okay, that's good. Jupiter in sixth house with Venus or Moon. Well, Jupiter in the sixth house with Venus or Moon is going to depend on whether that's a waning or a waxing moon. Venus can starve Jupiter, and Jupiter can support Venus. That's one thing. So really, it's kind of hard to say because it's not as simple as just simple planetary interpretations. I could say something broadly to you that would be roughly like 60% accurate. I don't like doing that, though. That's why I tend to shy away from stuff like that. Okay. Okay, so somebody's saying Jupiter's a gentle planet. What happens when it's in a malefic house? Well, if Jupiter's exalted in the sixth, well, that's going to give the person a capacity to keep a positive attitude through all those difficulties and that stress that they might be going through. If Jupiter's exalted and it's there with the moon, there's, you know, potentially some strong support for that Jupiter because it's there with its Lord. If Venus is there too, the desire for pleasure and enjoyment from one's life can lead one to make some unwise decisions. But again, if that's an exalted Jupiter, it can handle it a little bit better. And that Jupiter will give the spiritual wisdom to guide Venus into understanding why it might not be experiencing that happiness with its material life. So spiritually happy, so we're saying a Jupiter in Cancer with Venus in the moon, spiritually happy, but you know, maybe not always so materially fulfilled in life. Okay? That's just a simple concept though. Well, Jupiter in 6th house, but retrograde and exalted, the individual would find a lot of meaning through life's struggles. Okay, retrograde planets, there's a misconception about retrograde planets, which is that if a planet is retrograde, it's a bad planet. Well, actually, when a planet's retrograde, it's one of the strongest things in the sky. It's just not externally focused, it's more internally focused. So, you know, if you're wanting God to give you a cookie, that's maybe not the planet that you're looking for if you're looking for that cookie to manifest outside on your life stage. But if you're looking for God to give you a cookie inside of yourself, that's the planet you're going to want to be looking for. I think people need to stop thinking of retrograde planets as being negative things, because they're not negative. Okay. All right, a few more questions, and then I'm going to need to move on for the evening. So just a reminder, these 2 new video courses are available on my website. You'll see a little eye in the window up above. That can take you to my courses page. If you want to purchase either of those courses, you get a 10% discount on those courses for the remainder of the evening as an initial offer on those courses. And again, you can purchase either of these courses in 1/4 portions, like, 12 to 15 classes at a time, or you can do it in full. Okay. The variance in price, if you're doing the Varga course, it's $169 per 1/4 before your 10% discount, which would be roughly $153 after, and $625 for the course in full, which would be roughly $560. And for the Rahu and Ketu course, which is an excellent course as well, I haven't gone as much into that, is $139 per 1/4 of the course before your discount. And again, $499 for the full course before your discount. Okay. So let's see what else we've got here. Any yoga in astrology has to be qualified. Okay. Somebody's asking a question about Guru Chandala yoga, and I don't want to go too deeply into it. Nothing is always a unequivocal given in astrology. Okay. So yogas, you have to determine if that planet is a planet that basically causes more benefit to the horoscope, or if it causes more difficulty to the horoscope. If it causes more difficulty, the bad side of the yoga will manifest. And some yogas have a positive side and potentially a negative side. And if it causes more benefit, then basically more of the positive results will show. Okay. Could never find anything on Ketu in Ashlesha Nakshatra. Well, Ketu in Ashlesha Nakshatra is going to have some Leo equivalent to it. A lot of it would depend upon Mercury. So here, you can never find anything on Ketu in Ashlesha Nakshatra. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some information that I have on my course on Ketu in Ashlesha Nakshatra. But this is just some simple stuff. It's by no means conclusive. And by the way, if you go into the Rahu and Ketu course, if you purchase that course, there's an in-depth explanation of all of the nakshatras included on that course. Okay, so I want to find the slide that I had on Ashlesha Nakshatra for you, so I can give you some information on Ketu and Ashlesha Nakshatra and some of the things that it can create. Okay, but these are just some simple things. And let me just screen share with you. Okay, let's try that again. Application window. Okay. Previous lifetime may have been a seeker, has a tendency towards inquisitiveness, can be short energetically. So in other words, they might be short-tempered, can be prone to saying harsh things upon occasion, comes from a perspective of not wishing to submit to the wisdom of another unless they feel that person is worthy, indirect with problems until they come to a head, can be viewed as being selfish, predisposition towards the healing arts, can be manipulative potentially, can also be powerful in a positive way, can be talkative. Rahu and Ashlesha emphasizes the controlling nature. In this lifetime, with the support of Mercury and other factors, and especially if Rahu has vocation connections, the person can be a homeopath or connected with other medicines. There can also be an obsession with snakes. Okay? Those are just some simple things. I go more into depth with that on the course. But those are some of the things that you can find. Okay, so let's just see what else we've got going on here. Okay, good. So again, if you want to schedule a consultation with me, you can do that through the astrological services page of my website. That's available if you go to AuthenticAstrology.com. Actually, I'm going to type that in the window here, https www. I type this so quickly sometimes because I've done it over and over and over again. That's the link to my astrological services page. Okay, and if you want to purchase either of these courses, remember you get a 10% discount. That discount code is VIDEO, video. I've typed that into the window too. That's available only until 10:30 p.m. tonight. So if you want to take advantage of that, you need to do so quickly. So again, you can do it either in 1/4 portions or through the course in full. Thanks everybody for joining me here tonight. I will talk to you the next time that I am here on YouTube. Bye now.